button.
Are you going to cut this at some point? Because we have to get all our
But you're not going to cut this.
Oh,
What's
yeah,
happening?
Yeah, we haven't told you about that
Cutting out
procedure.
profanity.
We have to get our fucks out.
Yeah.
All right, 9:35. All right, here we go. We all just stopped talking.
That was a great start.
I don't know how to
Yes.
start this anymore.
Typical start.
I
I
forgot how to
know.
do
You
this.
guys, I quit.
What? No. We just
Quitting
got back
right
in
now.
here. No.
I'm quitting right now.
No.
Drop it
Hello.
back and go
This is the episode where Brandon quits the podcast.
Oh, Lord.
on the actual podcast.
Yes.
You're cool. You're cool. I'll see you later, Lucas.
Well, what's up, y'all?
Hi, everybody.
We're back.
It's the Nerd Factor podcast from the Madison County Public Library in Richmond and Berea, Kentucky.
Oh, wow, I'm having like deja vu now.
Right?
Haven't we done this before?
I don't know, man.
I
It feels
don't know.
like a dream.
We apologize if we're a little out of sorts. It's been a while since we've done this.
Yes.
A
It's
while.
been 5 months? 4
Has
months?
it really been? No.
It's
It was
April.
like the beginning of December
What's
when we
today?
were last together.
April
Holy
3rd?
guacamole.
It's April 3rd, yeah.
It might have been 5 months.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Wait, can
No.
I not add?
No.
4
it's been
months?
4 months.
I don't know.
December to
I'm a
January,
librarian,
January
not a
to
mathematician, okay?
February to March, March to April. It's been 4
I
months.
really hope my mom doesn't listen to that.
It's
She's so good at math,
Christina.
and it's like killed her forever that I'm so bad at it.
the
Right.
same way.
Even so bad at like figuring out how many months are between December and April.
It's for sure the same for me, yeah. I also can't discern between my elbow and my shoulder. I often call my shoulder and like, oh, I just hit my elbow.
And it's your
But
shoulder.
it's 100% not my elbow for
I
even
feel
a
like
second.
that's even sadder than what just happened with me.
It's pretty sad.
That.
I have a hard time.
All right. The joke at my house is I don't do math. I'm pretty.
Ooh.
Yeah, but
Well,
no,
I can't subscribe to that theory myself, so. Yes,
Well, I mean, it's a joke because actually everybody at my house is very good at math, and
I thought you were going to say everybody at my house
This
is
is pretty
really ugly.
You're gonna say it like
The joke's on you. We're all very homely.
You're awful. You need to learn it. You need to learn math immediately.
sorry, honey, you gotta learn
Oh.
some math. You're not quite. You're as one of my friends told me, April, you're not that pretty.
Oh, it's
And I was
cold.
like, oh, ouch,
Oh.
thanks, Alice.
Therapy session right here.
Right
Everybody's pretty. Everybody's good.
We're all pretty.
Especially you, Lucas. Lucas is our new.
on. Lucas is here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about him for a
Oh my
second.
gosh, we've
Okay.
had some major changes happen since in the last 4 months.
4 to 5.
Sitting over
Maybe
there with
6.
a beer.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a new person, Lucas. Say hi, Lucas.
Hello, Lucas.
Yeah.
There we go.
Gosh.
I said
Yeah.
hi, not
You said
hello,
hi.
but okay. That works.
So Mark, our previous
Dear Mark.
fourth counterpart, left us for a different position, and we're sad. Hi, Mark. Bye, Mark. We're sad
Hi.
about that, but we're so happy. I've been just. Lucas would tell you, ever since he got this job, I've been like, oh, I'm so excited to work with you. I can't wait. So we've been doing good stuff
Yeah,
together.
no, I've been very excited as well. We've
Yeah.
had lots of conversations because since our desks are right next to each other, we're like, hey, what about this?
Right. Nice. Co-conspirators.
Yes. So, okay, so last time we were here, we talked to Mark because it was his farewell episode, and unfortunately the audio for that one was completely terrible and was totally unusable.
Yeah, we were
Which
sad.
was sad because it was a really
Yeah,
good
and it was a
episode.
really
Yeah.
good episode. So
Mark talked about all the cool
unfortunately,
things
yeah,
did.
so we weren't able to use that, and then that was Mark's farewell episode. So you guys didn't even you barely got to meet Mark other than through our laughter at him.
which was in abundance, I will say.
Sweet guy.
Yeah.
And we miss you, but we got Lucas now, so we're good.
So we don't miss you that much, if I'm being honest. I'm kidding. That's a joke. I really do. You guys, I'm having a hard time. I don't mean to talk over
No,
you,
no,
but
no,
can I
go
tell-
ahead.
I'm having a hard time right now because I found out like 2 seconds before we started the podcast that the girl that I've been crushing on Instagram has a boyfriend. Do you know, does that ever happen to you
Your
guys?
world has just come crashing down.
You know, like it's like I feel like it's a real thing. Like I've just kind of been like, you know, we've talked a little bit, you know, this kind of thing. We have a little bit of a connection. It's not creepy or weird. It's just like, oh, we met She
On
lives
Instagram. That's
on
not
Instagram. That's right.
I'm like, do you know her in real life at
No,
all?
we've never met in real life. We've
Is she
talked
like
about
in
it.
the area where you could meet?
I mean, yeah, she's
Okay.
close by. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like so the reason I even bring this up is because I think in the world today, like we all, like most of us, like this is like a new way of connecting, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And so, and it happens to me like once in a while that somebody adds me and they're like, oh, you post silly stuff, and I'm like, yeah, and we conversate. And then I get really disappointed.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say that. Maybe somebody out there is like, oh
Well,
yeah, dude.
I mean, I've
those
had
feels.
Bummer.
over the
Super bummer.
over the last 2 years. I mean, as you all know, to our new listeners, I'm a theater nerd. Done it since high school and have been very heavily involved in community theater and regional theater a lot here recently. And so over the last couple of years, since I really started branching out, I have made a lot of connections, and it's been and it's been really interesting because there's been a lot of people who I've connected with on social media
Right.
because we have a lot of contacts in common, or we've been to the same shows and we have mutual friends,
Right.
and so they're a good contact to have. And that's really the way to stay in touch with people and to stay up to date on what is going on
Right.
in the Central Kentucky theater community.
No doubt.
And so there's been like 40 people that I have made contacts with over the last couple of years
That you've never met in person,
that
right?
I've or I've like met once
Right on,
in
yeah,
person,
right,
but
right.
they're a good contact to
It's a real
have.
thing.
And so there's been several of them that's like that.
It's a real thing.
So no, I completely understand.
I bring it up not to be like, again, it's not
Bummer.
a creepy thing. It's just a little bit of a bummer. I'm like, oh man, we had a connection and now I'm disappointed. And I think it's interesting that like that's kind of like the way of the world today, like, you know. And when that happens on social media, I kind of say to myself, oh yeah, they're like a person with a life and they don't just live in my phone and you know what I mean? And
Yes.
now I feel a little
Or they're an
sheepish.
actual bot.
Right.
Just live in-
This is
They're an
Brandon and the
actual
bot
bot
romance.
posting pictures of the beach.
It's a song, actually.
And-
Brandon and the Bot.
It's a band actually, and I am the bot.
Oh, you're the bot.
I am the bot.
God, twist. Bot twist.
Anyway,
Yep.
This is Cece, by the way. I don't think we said her
Oh my
name.
God.
Oh, I'm April,
and I am the bot.
also known as Brandon.
Hi guys.
Good Lord. So that's all a prelude. So then the next thing that happened in December was actually pretty cool.
Christmas.
It was before that even.
Like
It was
a
a
Christmas.
very interesting Christmas event. So we were doing a photo shoot for our holiday greeting, and we get to the end of that, and Cece checks her phone and suddenly says, "Hey guys, have you seen this?"
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And how did you forget about this?
I forgot how it like
How it
first
happened.
dropped.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
And so, turns out it was an email from a production company in Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, they were Richmond, Virginia, New York, LA,
Somewhere.
and they were
One of those three.
they had seen the article that Ricky Barker wrote for us, or about us in the Richmond Register, and
What up,
she,
Keith?
and they were intrigued by it and wanted to talk to us about the possibility of developing a network reality series around the podcast.
Yeah.
That was kind of, and so after a good, 10, 15 minutes of us going, it's a scam, it's a scam.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't think it's a scam. It's a scam, it's gotta
Actually,
be a
it's good
scam.
2 weeks of thinking it was.
I was sure that it was a scam.
Yeah.
I thought it was a scam until I asked the lady during our
Is
Skype
this a
meeting,
scam?
"Is this a scam?"
Yes, this is true. It's like, I'm sorry, I hate to be that guy, but
Yeah.
is this a scam?
I think I asked, "Does this cost us any money?" And then when I-
Yeah. And she laughed.
Because you know that's a
So,
surefire indicator of a
shocker,
scam.
We haven't heard back.
Yeah, no. Thanks, Brandon.
Sorry, guys, it was me. And she was like, "Oh, this guy didn't want to."
Yeah, but it was pretty cool. So I was like, well, guys, it's a win-win-win, because if it's a scam, then we've got a good episode or good story for the podcast. If it's legit and something comes of it, then this could be pretty cool. And then if it's legit and nothing happens, it's still pretty cool.
Right, that middle of the road. That's actually, I think, the saddest of the three options because it's like totally legit, right? And she showed us all this proof, and they've been
Yeah.
doing all these great shows. It's 100% legit, and we were interviewed. We
did a Skype
lots
interview.
of laughter, lots of good connection, and then
And then
crash
silence.
and burn.
Crickets.
I'm talking about
Silence.
radio silent in space. No one can hear you cry. Like
I think I even emailed her
Well,
twice, like,
yeah.
hey,
How's
how's
it
it
going? She's like changed her name and moved away.
Just-
She's in a whole different career now.
for sure. Dude. Yeah, right. Yeah.
That day she like
She
quit
was
her
like, yeah,
job.
Yeah, and we're gonna see her like as a clerk at Walmart. And she's gonna duck under the desk.
Oh God, it's
Like,
those people.
oh yeah.
I mean, it could have been worse if she like saw us and then like you just see her hand like go to the computer to close out the Skype.
It's like, oh,
No.
No. You
I hope
guys.
you're all good at math.
Right. How many months is it between December and April again? Because that's why you're not on TV.
yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah. We've got excellent faces for radio.
As you can see today, because we are videoing,
I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
which
Hi.
is very lucky for me since I am super dressed up today.
You know what? Just like everything else, I think we've caught our personalities pretty well.
Oh, it's good.
You know what though? If I could wear this to work every day, I feel like I would be a much more productive, efficient person.
You forgot nicer.
Probably nicer as well.
Ouch.
Cece is the nicest person that I know. I'm just joking. I'm feeling a little smarmy today because I got disappointed on Instagram.
There should be a word for that, like
Smarmy.
insta-disappointed.
Insta-pointed.
It's the point. It's the point.
Disappointed.
Disappointed.
Or
Disappointed?
disagram.
Disagram?
Disagram?
Disagram, yeah,
No,
yeah.
disagram sounds like Eminem being like, that's whack, your mama.
That's 100% an Eminem lyric. Absolutely.
Including the awkward pause.
Anyway,
Anyway,
moving along, my friend.
So
Welcome
then,
back.
so then in
I'm
January,
happy to be
Lucas
back.
was hired to replace Mark at the library, and since that is where we work, at the Madison County Public Library in Richmond and Berea, that is too Ruthie. And then, so we had to wait for you to finish out your other position and then get acclimated to here, and then
no, we had to wait
scheduling
for me,
yeah, and then we had to wait for Cece,
'cause I was
so.
doing these state trainings that took
Yes.
the life out of me. But they were great. They were awesome if anybody's listening to this.
Awesome, cool.
Sweet.
So, long story short, way too late for that. Here we are, and we're back.
Yay!
6 to 8 months later.
Because we do math.
It's so good.
Because we math good.
We do, we math well.
We math good.
I
We
can
math good,
Except
so.
for kids who can't read good.
And want to do other things good too.
Yeah, right. Totally.
So speaking of a center for kids who can or can't read good,
Uh-huh.
next week's National Library Week.
How exciting.
Cece,
How'd
bring
you like that
in the
segue?
fun.
Tell me more, tell me more.
Well, actually, like I always say, I pick like the most boring stuff, but the roots of this are pretty cool.
Oh.
So next week, it's April 8th through the 14th, I think.
That would make sense.
I'm not doing numbers today. Yes,
Really?
it's
Okay.
the 8th to the 14th. So National Library Week, it happens every year. If you remember, we used to do one book, which
Yeah.
April I think is going to talk more about.
Yeah.
And we did it during the month of April because
Right.
it is library centric.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the 1950s, people were afraid that people were not reading as much as they should.
Oh.
Does this sound like something
Uh,
that we
it's
deal
like-
with?
This
No.
sounds like ongoing issues.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So it was like the mid, 1950s, so 1955 or 6 or whatever. And people were worried because they were buying more and more TVs and radios, and they were buying fewer books.
Ooh.
So this group, National Book Committee and the American Book Publishers,
Okay.
they teamed
NBC
up
and
with the
ABP.
ALA
Oh.
and started National Library Week,
Maybe
so
they're
that people would come in
acronyms.
and get excited about books and reading.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's yay.
So the way that we do it now, like our KPLA conference is next week too, and that's
Right.
always
Right,
taking place during National Library Week.
I did not know that.
Mhm.
KPLA is Kentucky
I'm
Public
sorry.
Library
Yeah,
Association.
sorry.
Oh my God.
I keep looking at the camera like, it is this.
I always
I met
forget
R.L.
that,
Stine
like,
last year. It was so
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, that was so cool.
So-
was it
So-
just last
It
year?
was just
It
last
does,
year.
I
Yeah.
don't want to make you guys jealous.
Oh,
Who are you meeting this year?
Cece,
Doe.
no.
Lois Lowry is the
Oh no!
No!
He's like my childhood hero.
He-
Gee.
You do that every time. Who was it last time?
It's like everybody we bring up.
Messed up.
Hold on. Tony Braxton.
Oh my!
Was one. No,
Unbreakable.
Toni Morrison. Toni
Yes.
Morrison. Yeah, right. It was the other way.
Well, once
No,
again,
actually, it was me. I was thinking that Methuselah
was a woman.
was a
yes.
woman. Yes.
I legitimately
Oh my God, I had
Sorry,
forgotten those
sorry.
episodes.
I'm so sorry that I blamed you.
So if I send a copy of Number of the Stars with you, would you hit her to say?
I'll try.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the guy that wrote the Cornbread Mafia
Oh,
is
cool.
going to be the luncheon speaker.
I wonder,
That is-
that's Madden going to be able to join you? That's too bad. She's really into that.
No,
Yeah.
it's in
That's
Bowling
really
Green
cool.
this time, so.
Okay.
I've always
Yeah.
wanted to read that book and just never. It's just
I've
never
also never
come
read it.
across. Huh?
Me neither,
I've never
yeah.
read it.
Yeah, I've always wanted to. It sounds
Mhm.
fascinating.
It's so cool.
And at one point during my mom's career in home health, she somehow managed to stumble across like the pot king
Oh,
for this region, and it was really interesting, and I don't remember what happened with that, but I was like, you did what now? But whenever I hear about the Cornbread Mafia, it always makes me think of this. But she used to do home health out in rural Kentucky,
Yeah.
out all over, all kinds of different places.
for me, when I hear about the pot king, I think of a vagrant-looking gentleman with pots and pans on his head. It's a little bit like a Johnny Appleseed.
Very much
type.
like the creature in Labyrinth that had all of the stuff on their backs.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just kind of clanking around as he walks. But if ever you need to cook something on stovetop, he's your man.
Or over a fire.
He's the pot
or
king.
He's the pot king. Cast
And his
iron,
nemesis
copper
His
bottom.
nemesis is the pan. Peter Pan is his nemesis. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Okay.
Well, that's our show for the day.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Brandon threatened to quit, and I think this maybe.
This is actually
It's like
me.
this might be a positive thing.
Since you wouldn't let me know, I'm going to force myself out. by
Okay,
saying
so
stupid things.
totally-
Instead of the earbud episode, I'm starting to lean towards this is the one where Brandon quits.
I'm out.
So April 10th, which is next Tuesday, guess what that day is? It's a very important day for
A
us.
Tuesday?
This
Library employees,
This involves,
National Library Week.
yeah, yeah,
is.
I don't know.
National Library Workers Day.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So if y'all want to send us stuff,
Yes, we like cake.
507 West Main
And
Street,
pie.
Richmond, Kentucky.
At the Madison County Public Library in Richmond, Virginia.
404-7.
3!
Yes, we do.
Boom!
I also like pizza.
Yep,
I'm a big
Oh,
fan.
pizza's good.
I'm a
I'll
big
take
fan.
pizza,
Yep,
just
okay.
with no cheese, please.
Okay, yes, very good. I'll just eat your cheese. We'll transplant your cheese onto my pizza. Just like,
Yikes.
But what the toppings?
well,
You don't get the toppings
we'll
too.
figure it out, man. I want that cheese.
I want that cheese. Give me that good cheese.
Alright,
National Bookmobile Day is the next day.
Oh, is it
Oh,
really?
wow.
Do you know Kentucky is a state that has like more bookmobiles than most others?
I knew that we were really.
yeah, I knew that we were really,
Kentucky,
really
yeah.
high, but I didn't
Yeah.
know that it was like
I
that.
forget the percentage off the top of my head, but I think it's almost every county. Is that right, Brandon? 'Cause
I don't
you're
know
really
if it's.
involved.
Well,
that's
I'll tell you
true.
what I do know. I actually recently, about a month ago, became a member of ABOS board, the board for the American Bookmobile and Outreach Society.
Good,
right?
because I was about to ask you, and what does that mean?
Yeah, ABOS, and so it feels really, really good as an outreach librarian. I'm obviously part of that, and so I'm learning a lot about ABOS as a national organization, and I'm participating in meetings once a month. We have like a teleconference for an hour, where we decide things about the ABOS conference, and we kind of commune over programmatic stuff. And okay, anyway, when people found out I was from Kentucky at my first ABOS board meeting, I was taken aback by how, because this is a meeting with people from all over the country. You see,
Right,
we kind
right.
of all phone in at a synchronous time, and people were like, "Oh, Kentucky, you guys are great with bookmobiles," and I was like, "Yes." And if someone was from Wyoming, and they said that they had like maybe 10 counties in the whole state with bookmobiles. Like they said,
Really?
people in Wyoming don't know what a bookmobile is, and I was really
Which is
Wow.
interesting because
Yeah.
they're a super rural area as well.
Right.
right on.
You
yeah,
would think that
exactly.
more rural areas. I have such a hard
The
time saying that
rurager.
word. Rural. Slight tangent off of that with the word rural. I have a very difficult time saying that, and so coming back from an event with some friends of mine, we ended up creating a tongue twister that he then turned into a children's book.
Really?
Earl Merle the Rural Squirrel.
That's
Dude,
funny.
no.
And it was like his best girl squirrel Pearl twirled her curls in a whirl, and it just keeps going on from there,
Oh.
and it's crazy.
It
So
makes my
anyway,
heart unfurl.
yeah, I'll read it. I can read it for you guys sometime.
Earl
It's
Squirrel.
it's a challenge.
That's cool.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
the state library rankings right now because I thought that bookmobile information was in there, but it's not.
Oh.
But yeah, we have one of the,
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I know we have a lot, because I saw a picture one time from KDLA, which is Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives from the state.
All of
Good
these
Lord.
acronyms.
We really like our acronyms.
Acronyms.
We do, for sure.
Acronymistic.
But there was a picture, like they were having, and there was just this fleet of bookmobiles parked outside.
No doubt, yeah.
And there was
no
just
doubt.
a ton of them, and there wasn't even close to all of them.
I mean, so when when ABOS has their national conference, people bring their bookmobiles from all over the country, wherever the conference is. This past year it was in Pittsburgh, and there's a whole day where they have bookmobile day, and you can go tour people's bookmobiles, et cetera, et cetera. And there were more from Kentucky. Now I thought it was kind of because we were on the West Coast. You know, if it was in Las Vegas, which it's been in the past, maybe there would be fewer from Kentucky. But once again, more from Kentucky than from any other state. And this was
Wow.
in, this
I
was
have a
in
quick and
Pittsburgh.
dirty number here.
Yeah.
Okay.
140
Okay.
in the
In
state.
Kentucky,
And
that's-
there's
that sounds
120
right.
counties in our state.
Well,
Well, I know,
about that?
yeah, because I know that there are a few
Yeah.
larger counties that have more than one bookmobile.
How about that? That's cool,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. That is
Also,
really, really awesome.
Quick bookmobile statistic. There was a bookmobile at this past ABOS National Conference, which once again was in Pittsburgh, from New Orleans. And they had like their bookmobile, like we would go inside it and you had like a disco party and it was like neon lights. I mean, it was intense.
That's cool.
And they had a mini fridge for alcohol.
What?
This
What?
is a-
Well,
I
it is New
absolutely-
Orleans.
I absolutely promise you. And I asked the question. I was like, "Well, you guys like put your lunch on there and you just put some booze in it, you know, like when you come to conference?" And they're like, "No, we have it for adults at stops."
Personally, their usage is higher than any other bookmobile. in the
I have
Wow.
every reason to believe.
Well,
Right.
we are, the bourbon capital of the world.
Hey, I'm actually opposed to this. I mean, do they
Wow.
like put a barcode on it and like you use your library card and
Just
check it out?
check out like a pint glass
You'd
and then just
return
like
it,
fill it
yeah.
up, kind of like
I
a
feel-
brew fest.
I
That would be
think- I
pretty
feel like
awesome.
they sell it and the money maybe goes to their friends. I don't know where the money goes.
That is
but
genius.
it is 100%.
It really is
But
genius.
it's such a part of the culture. They have drive-through daiquiri stands
Right.
all throughout
Right.
Louisiana. Like, how does that even work? I was told that as long as you don't put your straw
Yeah.
in the daiquiri,
Yeah,
Right.
it's still
That there's
considered
no-
a closed
Right.
container as long as you
Right.
don't have the straw in.
right?
They have to give you like a covered straw, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the paper
Well,
straw.
because there's a
right?
place in
Right.
Richmond where you can get like slushies that are like Mike's Hard whatevers,
Okay.
and as long as you don't put the straw in, it's still considered a closed container.
Oh well,
Yeah,
we're closer to drive-through
close to my
daiquiri
house.
stands than I thought.
yeah. It's close to my house, and every now and then.
One day in my lifetime, I hope to see a drive-through daiquiri stand in Richmond, Kentucky.
Oh man, Kona Ice, get on it,
Yeah, where are you at,
One can
Kona?
only dream.
Yeah.
man.
Finally, the last day of National Library Week, or the last recognized individual day, April 12th, Take Action Day.
Take action.
So that's a national day where everyone advocates for library funding, which is
Heck yeah.
really important right now.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt, yeah.
And, supporting libraries and library workers. and
That's
things
April
like
12th.
that. Mhm.
All right.
Feels
Cool.
like we should have like Library Legislative Day and Take Action Day on the same day.
I think that the only reason they don't is because I think that the general session could end before that.
Mhm.
I
Oh
don't-
yeah, they're out until the 13th. I think after yesterday.
Yeah,
Here in Kentucky.
Okay.
Anyway.
yeah,
Okay.
That makes sense.
where stuff is going down.
Stuff
Boy,
is going down.
As
If you
we
watched the
speak.
news
Yeah.
yesterday,
As we speak,
It was-
yeah.
So if you feel
intense.
so compelled, take action,
Yes.
April 12th.
Take action.
Yeah,
Woohoo.
man, no doubt.
All right. Well, coming off of that topic is
Segue!
going into my
We should have
topic.
like a segue, like a button with it.
A segue sound effect.
Like that.
I deleted. I had a sound effect app on my phone that I used for a play once, and I deleted it.
Glass
since then.
shattering woman screams. Segue. Okay.
Anyway, so our one book. Did I turn that off? No, I didn't. Okay, having technical issues. So our one book, 1 year, several years, like
It was, I think it was 2013 because it was Athena's first year here.
well, no, like the Night Circus was
Night
13
Circus.
was the first one.
So 2014.
Yeah,
I'll say,
2014.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's the
Was
first one I had absolutely nothing to do with, which is why I thought it was 2013.
Nice.
so Ready Player One
Rings.
by Ernest Cline was our one book for the Central Kentucky region,
Mhm.
really.
And what's the one book and how did it work?
Okay, so one book was this thing. Cece should probably talk about this one more because she was involved in creating
I don't mean
it.
to put you on the spot. I was just thought perhaps. It would
No,
be-
there
I
were
can
several
participate
different
as well.
counties within Central Kentucky region. Us, Lexington, I don't remember.
Frankfort,
what else.
Scott
Anderson.
County,
Woodford, Scott, yeah,
Bourbon.
right.
Yeah.
Woodford, yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
was,
Quite a few.
it was basically all the central Kentucky.
Yeah.
and it was
Libraries.
called One Book, One Bluegrass, and so they would get together and they would decide on one book that they could read, that everybody would be interested in reading, or most people would be interested in reading, and that they could do programming off
Yeah,
of.
program centered around
And then there would
it,
be one culminating event at the end of the month.
No doubt.
And the Night Circus one was fantastic.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
dude.
That was
crazy
awesome.
Holy guacamole.
The book was
People
great.
came together.
And then the programming was really awesome, and then the gala at the end,
The gala
with the
was
steampunk
beautiful.
costumes
Yeah,
and everything.
man.
That
Erin
was,
Morgenstern came. She was
Yeah,
there.
she-
Yeah.
She
yeah.
came. It was so cool.
was really, really cool. So then the
Yeah.
following year was when we did Ready Player One,
Mhm.
which the moment that Athena told me what the book was, I immediately checked it out and devoured it in one night.
Nice.
I've since read it or listened to it probably another 3 or 4 times.
Oh wow. Okay.
I love it.
Awesome.
It's one of my favorite books.
Did you like Armada as well?
I did. I liked Armada, which is the second book by Ernest Cline. The problem I had with Armada was that the bar was set so high with
Dude,
Ready Player
I would say
One
exactly the same
that
thing.
it's just Armada was really, really good.
Yeah.
Was that his first book?
Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Oh,
Now
wow.
he was
Yeah.
a screenwriter.
Okay.
That's right.
Before that, he wrote Fanboys and some other things.
Fanboys is so great, P.S.
It's fun.
It's about Star Wars.
We went and because he came to Joseph Beth in Lexington a couple years ago.
I remember when you met him.
And my
yeah.
friend and I went and met him and got him to sign our one book posters, and I wore my one book shirt and completely nerded out. Had him sign my copy of Ready Player One, got Armada, had him sign that.
Heck yeah.
And so, excuse me. So the bar was set so high with Ready Player One
Yeah,
that
yeah.
as good as Armada was, I wish that it had been his first book because I feel like it just fell short
Yeah.
because Ready Player One was just so good.
Yeah.
And it seems to be one of those books where you Ready Player One is like you either love it or you hate it. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people who are in between. You're like, it's okay. Yeah, and I've passed it on to other people like, hey, here, read this. You need to read this. And everybody that I've given it to is like, this book is awesome.
Yeah.
So
It was awesome.
So we had Ready Player One as our one book from a couple years ago. And the reason I bring it up today is because the movie just came out. And I went and saw it on Friday, and I hesitate to talk about it because I don't want to give you spoilers, Brandon. And I don't want to give our listeners spoilers.
Again, I've read the book once.
Okay,
and
well,
a
the
half,
movie's
so
very
I would say-
different.
Is it?
It's very different.
Really?
I have mixed feelings about it
I'm
because
super
on one
okay
hand,
with spoilers myself.
okay, well, good, because it will be. There's some pretty big spoilers.
So if you don't want to hear it, fast forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
fast forward, just like our Stranger Things episode from last season, which I don't remember which one it was, but it's called Things Are Getting Stranger.
That's right.
So just like that one, skip. We'll tell you what mark to skip to later,
We'll
maybe.
have Lucas be like, skip to minute 48.
Just
Just
like that.
like that. He's like, oh God.
Lucas
What have I gotten
Lucas
into?
bot skip to minute 48.
Yes.
Human consumers of podcast.
Other bots, ignore.
Bots do not care about spoilers.
Yes. So, okay, they completely changed the first gate, which I don't
Oh.
like because that was my favorite gate.
Right.
Or the first key. They combined the keys and the gates together rather than having a challenge to find the key, then a challenge to find the gate, then another challenge to find the next key and then gate. And so
Yeah.
you didn't have 6 different challenges. You would find the key and then the gate would immediately open up and give you the clue to the next one.
Oh.
So they kind of removed that, but I was okay with that. I
Yeah.
mean, and I understand that you have to give up certain things when you're transforming from one media form to another.
Sure.
I completely understand that,
Yeah.
and I normally I'm able to keep the two separate and
Yeah.
enjoy them individually. I am still struggling with that for Ready Player One. Mostly because the first key, they changed it completely. It used to be in the book where the first key was hidden on Ludus, which was the school planet, with the whole idea being that a student would find it. It would be a kid, somebody who hadn't been influenced by corporate,
Right on. Yeah.
I don't even know what word I'm trying to find.
Ethos.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
Like,
really
sure,
don't have
that's a good one.
The corporate people.
But
Bots also do not care about corporations.
So because the idea is with a young
Bots
person,
do
they're
care.
still idealistic, they're still innocent, to a point, and so that was one of the things that I really really enjoyed about the book was that it was this whole idea that it would be a kid who found it. Well, they changed it.
Hmm.
It's no longer on Blue Dose.
Oh,
And
really?
it's now on a race.
Oh.
And apparently they said that a couple weeks or shortly after the Halliday's death, when the contest was released, the a gunter, which is a short term for an egg hunter, just figured out the first clue, and so then this portal opened, and so then everybody would go in and compete in this race to try and make it to the first gate, which you could see at the end. There was the finish line, and just beyond that was the first gate. Nobody could ever beat it. The race was really cool.
Yeah.
It was very visually appealing, lots of fun, but it completely changed the tone and the intent of the story.
So I have a question. I've never read the book, never watched the movie. What I'm hearing though is is the book kind of like an anti-corporate, like anti-greed, anti-whatever?
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Change that tone.
The movie, it changed it. It changed it a lot. I mean, it's still very anti-corporate, very anti, because like the corporate goons are called the Sixers because all of their they didn't have any their online ID was always started with a 6, and then and that's how you could tell that they were an IOI, which was, I don't remember what it stands for, something online something.
Vestig, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm online, idiots.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Ichabod Owls ice cream.
Yes,
That's what it is.
That's what IOI
Sure.
stands for.
Knew it.
Absolutely.
I was just thinking like it would make sense that a movie would have to kind of,
Right.
you know,
Well, and one of the
not
things-
have this like
Undertones are more
super
like,
anti-corporate,
Yeah.
anti
Right. No, and it still had that.
Yeah.
It still had that because part of the whole idea was that IOI was trying to get the egg, which the egg would, whoever found the egg and completed all of the challenges would inherit control over the Oasis, which is the virtual world in which most of the book takes place.
Right.
And they would also inherit all of Halliday's stocks, his fortune, everything.
Right.
So they would then be so IOI wanted to get the egg so that they could then take over the Oasis.
Right.
Like they pretty much already had, but this is the way that they could really take it
Right.
over and have free reign.
I mean, so that is a big, that's kind of a central axis of the plot of the book as well, is that the corporation wants control of the Oasis because that's where all the power in the world is really, and that's the main rub of the story, you know what I mean? And of course our main characters are kind of fighting against that. So it's a really like kind of a universal archetypal story in that way. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
When did this book come out?
Oh gosh.
Is it older?
I think it was 2012. It's pretty
Oh,
new,
it's pretty
yeah.
new, yeah.
Okay.
It's still pretty new.
Absolutely within the last 10 years, 100%.
Yeah, and it's very, very good. And so the movie still maintains that spirit of it, but I have issue with it, and I don't really see why they changed it, because the first gate, the first key, it was a D&D module. And so if you go in and you fight the monsters, and then you have to go and play Joust against this Sorcerer King. It's not in the movie.
Oh, what?
It's not in the movie at all.
Really? Are there D&D elements at all in the movie?
There's a logo that you see as he walks past
Not
it.
good enough.
And that's
No, that was one of my favorite parts of the book.
Me too.
Dude.
Me too. And not just because I play D&D. At the time, I didn't play D&D, and
For
I
sure.
still love that particular key. It was just great. But like I said, the race was very fun. There's like a T-Rex that comes out, King Kong comes out.
Right.
There's like, it was a really exciting and fun race. I just didn't like it because I felt like it changed the nature of really the heart of the book.
I'm sitting here as you're talking, and I'm thinking about how many of my favorite movies. It's almost like they have to include a race or a car chase scene, right? Like think Star Wars Episode 1, the pod race.
Yeah.
Right? That had to be in there for Anakin to get off Tatooine. The Matrix Reloaded. There had to be, at the time it was touted as like the most epic, visually appealing car chase scene in the history of cinema ever filmed. And it was pretty doggone epic in my opinion, but
it was pretty cool.
It was super duper cool, but I'm kind of saying to myself, like, now that they've made this decision with Ready Player One, I'm like, is there some kind of like market data? And I'm totally spitballing here. I'm wondering that Time Warner, I don't know who, Steven Spielberg, Amblin Entertainment, these people,
Mhm.
I wonder if they're like, we're gonna make an extra $20 million off this movie if there's a race scene, so we're gonna pull this material from the book and we're gonna
Mhm.
replace it with a race.
Well,
You know
I mean,
what
and the good thing, the
People
good
love
thing I
races,
can
it's
see,
kind of
well,
people
I
race.
think it films well.
it does,
Sure,
and it
sure,
was,
sure,
it
sure.
was very visually exciting.
Sure,
It
no
was,
doubt.
it was a lot of fun.
I don't disagree.
And I'm not a purist. I'm definitely not one of those people who's like, that's not in the book and that's just wrong. His hair color should be this.
Sure.
You know,
right.
I don't care.
Sure.
I can enjoy one and separately from the other.
Right.
But it just, like I said, it just felt like it changed the heart of the story by not having this element of it being a student and that focus on it being a student.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you had an opportunity to make D&D cool for the first time.
Yeah, right?
I was gonna say again, but for the first time.
Right.
And
I'm
then just
disappointed
wasted
by that.
opportunity.
Yeah, I'm disappointed.
But I mean, it was like they were trying to reach out to a broader audience, and I
Yeah,
get that.
And that's where I was gonna.
But
That's where I was
man.
gonna go too. But I don't think that would like necessarily alienate anybody. Or,
See, I don't
you know,
either.
I mean,
I mean, in 1971, back in that time, D&D was alias. It wasn't a divisive
it was
force.
created. It became. I think the 73 was when it was like
Sure.
mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, I remember
Mainstream, quote unquote.
when I was in high school in the 90s, I played D&D in high school in the 90s, and you know, I never really saw any like real intense negative, you know,
God, I
kind
did.
of thing about it. But I was for sure at least made aware of these kind of cultural undertones that Dungeons and Dragons has something to do with like the devil or something.
Satanic
Or like-
panic
Yeah,
of the
Right,
80s.
right.
See, I was a kid during all of that and was raised in the evangelical church.
Mhm.
So the satanic panic was part of my daily life.
How about that?
It was,
I'm sure everything was
everything
part
was.
of it.
Everything was. Part of the reason that Halloween is my favorite holiday is because I wasn't allowed to celebrate it as a kid. And it's so low stress and it's so much fun.
Yeah,
I'm
so
like, oh my
much
God,
fun.
bring on the Halloween. This is so much fun.
Here, friends.
I
Yeah.
mean, is that why they didn't put it in there? You think that people would like?
No, I don't think so. I think
No,
I think
not
it
today.
really had more to
Satanic
do
movie.
with than just having to pick and choose. And honestly, I also knew going into it that licensing was going to be an issue
Oh, well, yeah,
of
because there were
course.
so
Holy
many
cow.
different things.
Right.
For sure.
So I did go. I was like, you know what? I know that licensing is going to be an issue because I remember when Ernest Cline was in Joseph Beth. Somebody asked him. You know, it was like, okay, so I know you're writing the screenplay for Ready Player One. So what about licensing for all of these? He was like, we have an
Good
entire
question.
department
You
I'm
sure?
sure.
I bet
working
so.
on just
I
licensing.
bet so. Right.
Some of the changes that they did make, I loved. Like they did do the movie playthrough. They really did.
Okay.
But it was The Shining, but I loved it.
Okay.
But also The Shining is one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
So I loved it. I thought it was great.
I mean, it could have been just whatever they could get.
Yeah, it
Oh,
could
for
have been.
sure, it could
yeah.
have been. Yeah, it's
There
probably
were some
property of
things-
the studio
Right.
already.
Right.
You know, so that
Right.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier if it's like, okay, this is part of the same production company. We already own the rights to this one.
Right.
It's fine.
That's
It's
why all
fine.
the Suicide Squad trailers had all that Warner Brothers like music. Like.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right,
There you go. So I mean, like I said, I have mixed feelings. I enjoyed it as a standalone. I kind of wish that I had watched the movie before I read the book because I think I would have enjoyed it more.
I caught your Facebook thread about this. And
Yeah.
There was a big discussion about.
Yeah, I tried really hard to not give any spoilers because I
Movie
knew there were a
before
bunch of
book.
people
No,
who
no,
hadn't
no.
seen it
It
yet.
didn't feel spoiled to me
Good.
at all, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and it just really, the more I think about it, the more I feel like changing that first gate and changing it from him being a student and it being on the school planet with the whole idea of a student finding it just really kind of changed the heart of the story. It was still fun.
Yeah.
It was still fun, and it still had a lot of the same elements. I loved the way that they expanded Halliday's character,
Okay.
and he really appeared. Now, I am not an expert in this by any means, but it really appeared that Halliday's character was very much on the spectrum. You kind of got hints of that
Cool.
in the book, but in the movie, he was very much portrayed this way.
Nice.
But I loved it though. I
Yeah.
loved it, and his portrayal was very, very honest and very, very innocent. And it was, hey, people
Yeah.
from all walks of life can achieve great things, and I loved
You're
it.
talking about he was portrayed as an autistic character. Is that so?
Somewhere on the
Yeah.
on the autism spectrum.
I thought
yes.
it was so cool when the new Power Rangers film, which is not a good movie by any definition of a good movie.
I've heard it's fun though.
Well, so they made the Blue Ranger. The Blue Ranger is portrayed by an actor who himself is in fact autistic, and I was
Oh.
like, that rules. I thought that was a really cool decision. Yeah.
That is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take up too much more time on this, but
Yeah.
there were, I mean, like I said, there were some changes that they made. I didn't like. There were other things that I didn't like, but then there were other things that I just really loved, and so it was. There at one point when they're fighting the Sixers, when all of the Gunters show up to fight the Sixers because they've got the force field around the final
Right, yeah,
gate,
right.
and they're trying to get through, and all of the Sixers show up to fight them, and they start playing "We're Not Gonna Take It" by Twisted Sister.
That's cool. That's
And
cool.
it was
That's cool.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
They had a
cool.
fight between Iron Giant and Mechagodzilla. It
What?
was great.
That's
it was
cool.
great.
That's how I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right, Brandon, what have you got for us?
Well, hi everybody. I want to say, if you're listening, that I have a lot to say about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about that next time, so keep
Psych.
listening. This is my little teaser. I have a lot to say. I'd like to bring it to the table. I hope you don't mind that I'll do that. I hope you guys don't mind that I'll do that. But I have a lot to say.
Star Wars.
Today's not the day for my Star Wars rant. Today I want to talk about I bought a house.
Woohoo!
It's not going to be funny. I don't have a lot of funny stuff to say about it. I could just like tell you my story, and I'm not like, oh, look how great I am because I bought a house or anything like that. It's just, it's been a long road, and it's like the most grown-up thing I've ever done with my life.
It's a
It's
pretty
a
grown
For
up
pretty
thing.
sure, like it's like a super duper, like I think it's the most grown-up thing I've ever done. Other than like being up being up at night for
Let's
literally
point out that Brandon has a child.
sleeping like
like cradling
sleeping for
a baby.
45 minutes in 1 year total. That was also pretty grown up. I'm not going to play. My kid is the best thing in the world. And she's sleeping better now, so we're happy about that. Yeah, no, I bought a house, and I'm really excited about it. It's this sweet little place in Maria, and what do I want to say about it? Okay. I thought, so I thought it was like impossible for me to buy a house. My credit is middle of the road, and I always thought that would prevent me. I have some debt. It's not like crazy, like I'm going to jail. Like it's not,
Right,
it's not crazy
right.
debt. But I sat with a mortgage company out of Lexington that also happens to be they're like a realty mortgage combo. And I'm super, you guys should also know this about me if you listen to the podcast, or if you know me, won't be a surprise to you. Anybody who's selling anything, I immediately don't trust them, right?
Obviously.
I don't,
No
right,
way.
I mean,
Beginning of
right,
the
I don't
show.
walk onto a car lot, like I just don't, because, there people are out for basically to take advantage of you, in my opinion, unless you really find a diamond in the rough. What I'm getting at is I feel like the process has ended at this point in time. And it was positive for me from the beginning. I thought they were going to tell me during that first meeting when I presented them with income information and this kind of thing. I thought they were going to be like, well, Mr. Thompson, we have this lovely box in the rain on a sidewalk that you can purchase with your in your current financial and credit circumstance. But I was wrong. And I also think I want to say, so that was cool, and I was like, oh my gosh, so I'm going to be a homeowner, and that was great. But man, when you say to life, hey, I'm going to do this big thing, this is also my experience, and maybe you guys too, or maybe somebody out there listening, life kind of sneers at you and goes, oh yeah? We'll see about that, right? Because 2 weeks after I was pre-approved for my home loan, I totaled my car. On the day I was pre-approved for my home loan, I remember I put my hands together, and the truth is, and this isn't a judgmental thing, it's just my personal, I'm not really a praying man, but I prayed about that. So I put my hands together, I looked up at the sky, and I said, all right, now my car has to last me another year.
Oh my gosh.
On the day, I said, all right, here we go. And then I totaled it on a snowy day. So I had to overcome that, which I did. And then get this, there was this huge drama with flood insurance. My house is on a flood. It took 2 extra weeks, and I was very, very anxious the whole time. I would come into work, and people would be like, "Are you in your house yet?" And I'd be like, "Shut up! Don't talk to me about that." Okay, so I was scheduled finally at last. It felt like it took 10 lifetimes just to get a closing date out of my mortgage company, but I got my closing date on a Friday. Holy cow, next Tuesday I'm going to be a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And next Monday, there was a big, heavy, wet snow. And I woke up that morning and I got on Facebook because I'm addicted to my cell phone. And it was the first thing I did, and I looked, and everybody's newsfeed, or many people on my newsfeed had downed tree branches.
Yes.
Many people.
Yeah.
And I kind of laid there, and I was kind of like, ha, suckers. I don't have to worry about that. And then as my brain was coming online, it was like, you have a tree over the house that you're trying to buy tomorrow. You should probably go look. So I ran outside in my bathrobe and nothing else.
There you go, listeners. There's a visual
right?
image for you.
So, it's like literally, I wasn't even wearing shoes. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Because, and I'm sorry, this is a little. The home that I was buying was literally is literally down the street from where myself and my child and her mom were living at the time. So you could literally look out the window and see. And lo and behold, there was a 500-pound tree branch on the roof of the house.
No.
That I was literally closing on the next day.
Oh my Lord.
I put my face in my hands, and I was like, why? Why has it got to be this way? So,
Do you believe in signs?
Yeah.
You
Right?
told your car,
I do.
you got your home
I
loan.
do. But
This
so
whole mess
giant
of
snow
flood
and barge.
insurance.
so I know, right? Okay, right? So Cece, you just said you believe in signs. Yes, I do. But the twist I put on it, I could very well be misinterpreting, like I could be going the
I
complete
hope
wrong
you're
direction.
not. I hope you're not.
But the direction I'm going in is, all right, bro, come at me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Like Lieutenant Dan.
Bring, right, exactly, like Lieutenant Dan, strapped to the mast of that ship, screaming and giving the middle finger to, you know what I mean, to the wind.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, let all the tree branches drop on my house. Bring it on.
I'm just picturing Brandon doing that now.
In
Bathrobe. Bathrobe.
In front of
like-
the house, like what?
Flapping.
What?
That bathrobe just flapping in the window, torrential hurricane.
Bathrobe?
Right. Yes, the bathrobe. So that worked out okay. The owner of the home, literally while I was standing out there with my face in my hands, pulled up despite the ice and snow, and took care of himself, cut it off with a chainsaw, and there was no damage and this kind of thing. And I started moving in the next day. But I guess it's a funny story, right? We can talk about my bathrobe and stuff, and that's great. But if I were to say anything about it, I would say, like, in my experience, listeners, for the literally one penny it's worth.
Unsolicited advice.
Exactly. My experience is like when you say to life, "I'm doing this thing," life's going to come at you, and this continues to be demonstrated to me. Right?
Yeah.
And there's like this beautiful feeling of I won, like
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome.
And by the way, I didn't really win because I have a toilet that barely works,
Yeah,
and I have a
you
sink.
never win, really.
Right? Yeah, I have a
like,
sink.
yeah,
that,
home ownership,
right.
it's never ending.
Right, I have a sink that now totally needs a plumber. I just haven't called a plumber yet because I can't afford a plumber right now because I just bought a house. You know what I mean?
YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Learn
Right.
seriously. YouTube videos. Tom has watched a lot. I mean, when we first bought our house, he didn't know how to do any home maintenance or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we lived in our house, 10 years.
Yeah.
And so since then, he has taught himself how to do all of these things.
Yeah.
And so now he can do it. Like he fixed the sink, and I was like, oh, it's so sexy when you talk home repairs.
Also, we have a home repair database, I feel like, don't we?
I think we do.
That's a really important thing for
I
me
know we
to
have an auto repair
for sure, yeah.
database,
Auto for
but I don't
sure.
know if we have a home repair database.
I would be very interested to know that. Cece's
Yeah.
talking about MadisonLibrary.org right now, our website, of course.
The website for the Madison County Public Library in Richmond and Berea, Kentucky.
Ding!
Boom!
Yeah! Hey, last night, late in the evening, I went to Sonic because I was really hungry. I was working all day, didn't get dinner, and it was like 8 p.m. And the lady asked me if I wanted a foot-long or a regular-sized hot dog. And I told her, go ahead and give me that foot-long hot dog. And then from her end, I heard she must have pushed a button and it went ding! And I was like, I got the upgrade noise. It was funnier.
Ding!
It was way funnier if you had been there. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, it's great. It's great.
So,
Maybe
So-
I'm thinking of like a universal class. I don't remember.
Maybe,
I'm
it
looking
may
at
be
right
something
now.
like that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, no, I've already started to tell it. At
Do
this
it.
point, I just have to.
do it.
So, talking about flooding insurance and all of that stuff.
Oh, what a process.
you guys know, listeners, you don't necessarily know, but when we bought our house, we have a basement, and we bought our house in June, and in January of that year we had an ice storm. And so then because the power was off, our sump pump didn't work, and so that was our first flood. After that time, they started blasting down the road from my house, which then weakened the foundation a bit and rerouted the water. And so then after that, anytime we had a particularly heavy snow or a lot of rain, we would get an inch or a few inches of water in the basement.
That's no good.
And then a few times we had some significant flooding. There was one, the worst one we had was actually 3 years ago, where it flooded a few feet twice within a week.
Wow.
And today is the 3-year anniversary of the first of those bad floods from a few years ago, where it flooded twice.
I remember just kind of passing you in passing.
Yeah, I ended up being off of work for most of the week because we lost probably 60% of what we had downstairs. The worst one before that, we had we put a 3-gallon bucket underneath the worst place where it was coming in, and it was coming in 3 gallons a minute, or 3 gallons a minute. It was insane. It was like shooting. And at that point and wonderfully, one of the other topics I was going to talk about was family and other things like that, and I will talk about that at another time, because it's actually a really interesting twist that I was going to put on it, because I've had some interesting things happen recently. But one of the things about that, the reason I say family, is because I have this wonderful support network that are friends who are family.
Yeah.
And so I just put out a call on social media, said the water is coming in, everything's getting ruined, help.
Yeah.
And within 30 minutes I had 5 people at my house.
Wonderful.
Bailing out water and taking things upstairs.
That's
because
awesome.
we had our living room down there at the time.
Oh wow. Oh,
and so we were able to save most everything.
That's awesome.
Now 3 years ago we lost 60% of what we had down there. We're still, actually I just spent all day a couple days ago going through papers that had been in my garage for 3 years.
Wow.
I'm still going through things from that
That's
last
intense.
flood. But I ended up being off work. We took, I think, a friend of mine came over, and he and I ended up hauling out, because Tom was at work and he had to work. He couldn't. Thankfully school was in, and so the kids were at school, and I just took the week off. And we ended up hauling out like 700 pounds of sodden, just completely
700
soaked
dude.
carpet, just bookshelves. I mean, tons and tons of things that were just completely soaked.
Yeah.
We lost 60 to 70% of what was down there.
I hate that.
So the point is, you never win.
Yeah, right on. I won! Oh, yeah.
It's, I know none of us are particularly religious, but one of my favorite quotes along that line is, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
There you go, for sure.
And it's it's basically the
sure.
same thing. And,
my plan is to get a house. Oh, yeah.
What I'm saying, though, is I'm so glad you have insurance.
Right.
I mean, and we were able to get a very low, very excellent rate from the SBA for an emergency loan.
Great.
And they paid for B-Dry to come in and fix it, and knock on wood, it's been 3 years and we've not had any water.
Good.
None.
Wonderful.
Since then.
Good.
And I've gotten to the point where now I don't have a panic attack every time I see 3 days of rain.
Right.
Yeah.
3 days
sure.
straight of rain in
For
the
sure,
forecast,
for
because
sure.
I used to.
Yeah. My new next door neighbor he's a gentleman of about my dad's age, so I wouldn't call him an older gentleman. He's in his 60s, I'd say late 60s, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he informed me that he's lived on that street since my house was built, and my house was built in 1969, year of the moon landing, right?
Wow.
And he said he's never seen the creek flood that particular location. So
That's wonderful.
we'll see in his
That's
time
wonderful.
there. So we'll see. Yeah. Anyway.
What I ended up doing, because we had so many problems with that, even after B-Dry came, I still waited a full year before I put anything down there.
No doubt.
Now,
Well, after your experience.
yeah, I mean, we lived there for 7 years,
Yeah.
and we lived there for 6 months flood-free.
Yeah.
out of 7 years, and so then for
Yeah.
the last 3 years, it's been flood-free, thank God. But, I still just kind of am like keeping an eye on things. But we now have 3 sump pumps.
I bet so.
3.
Yeah.
And, but we have our living room down there again, we have a game room, we have a spare bedroom down there.
Nice.
And it works really well now, but
Nice.
man, it was rough going for a while.
Well, for our next episode, I will be talking about Star Wars The Last Jedi in my bathrobe. I will be bringing my famous Lieutenant Dan bathrobe.
And since we have a new development where we are filming our recording sessions,
I'm
yay,
pretty much wearing a bathrobe today.
you will be able to see Braden in his bathrobe.
All right,
I
everybody,
did
we'll have a
change my
good time.
shirt.
I should cut my
You look
toenails.
fine.
I had a bleach spot covered blue Nike hoodie on. And I was like, yeah, no.
I didn't even realize I had child marker on my shirt before I...
Child marker.
Child marker. I think I still have some on my toe, too. Yeah,
Brandon.
Woo! Flashing the camera.
I got drawn on Easter by a 19-month-old. It was wonderful, but I had to wash it off.
Anyway, I think we should probably stop there.
Yep.
So welcome back to the Nerd Factor podcast.
We're so glad you listened. Thank you.
We're so happy to be back. Oh my gosh. All right.
6
And
days
welcome,
later.
Lucas.
Yeah, dude, for real, welcome. Bots really like you, Lucas.
All right. Later, folks.
Peace.
Bye.
Love you, mean it.
You got the last word.
Ah.
Ah.